Yo, what's good, people? I'm Corey Powell. I'm a director and photographer based in North London, and I'm here to talk to you today about composition and mood and natural lighting. I'm a director and photographer that works for Black Sheep Studios, which is a production company based in Soho, and we're underneath the agency BBH. So how I got into photography and filmmaking was pretty much from birth, really. When I was a kid, I kind of was just surrounded by visual art. My dad was someone who was an artist for himself. He used to draw a lot, and he had this kind of art style where he used to draw a lot around like the walls of my house and stuff with like these kind of interesting stick figures, and his art was based on like being back home in Jamaica. So he'd draw a lot of palm trees, and then having like older sisters who were always watching like music videos. Like I remember coming home from primary school to watch like Missy Elliott's videos, a lot of stuff on Channel U, like seeing like kind of More Fire Crew and like Lethal B and Chipmunk and everyone kind of performing on their music videos. It was something that I kind of just wanted to get myself into and start basically doing myself. I went to college and I learned more about the art or the art and the technical side of what it means to make films and to compose photos. I got more into people like Christopher Nolan and like films like Boys in the Hood, where I saw they were capturing kind of like reality in a kind of surreal, interesting way. And this is something that I kind of wanted to do myself. I essentially ended up going to the industry. I didn't go to university. I took the plunge and went straight into work, and I worked for a few kind of, let's say, smaller production companies. I did some work with the BBC, which was a big influence in helping me, where I worked on a documentary with like Reggie Yates. And all of this stuff basically helped me to gain the confidence and to understand the knowledge of what it meant to basically kind of pursue work and pursue your art. And then I kind of just got to a point towards the end where I was doing a lot of work for others, but I wasn't really telling my own story. So what I wanted to do is kind of take it into my own hands and start capturing my own work and telling my own story. And I saw photography and filmmaking, more so photography, as a way to practice and capture what I wanted to capture before I could turn it into visuals by using filmmaking. So yeah, photography is something that's always kind of been there with me. Composition and mood is something that I kind of value a lot within my work. Composition and mood is a big thing for me when I want to compose a photo, more or less. For me, I would say I'm someone who is very big on emotion within art. I really appreciate art that makes me feel a type of way, and I really value when an artist can effectively communicate him or herself essentially when like taking a photo. And I think with me, when it comes to when I take my work, it's more or less a thing where it's like, okay, how do I do that? How do I get the emotion across? And what is my best way to do that? So going into composition now, it's always good to understand the basics. I usually tend to follow the basics, which is the rule of thirds, where if you imagine wherever you're taking a photo, either horizontally or vertically, you split it into basically three equal lines. So 2 lines down and 2 lines across, and you basically have a grid essentially. And wherever your subject, wherever you're taking, whether it be a person, mountain, or something else, if it's on those lines or if it's captured in the middle, it's basically seen to give you a more prominent or more engaging photo, you could say. So I tend to use that as a base, and with that being said, a lot of my photos tend to be right in the center, just because I feel like when you see the photos, when they're printed out, they tend to just be right in front of you, and you can kind of take in, and it's almost like the photo staring back at you itself. And whatever mood, for me personally, that I'm trying to capture, it's just more about what picture I'm taking. I deal a lot with people when I'm taking pictures or creating concepts. It's little things of like how do they look, what is the expression that they're giving off, how are they positioned within the frame, and really communicating with the person that I'm taking a photograph of on what we're trying to achieve. So just basically working to find a nice medium between the two to effectively capture that. The natural lighting for me is, I'm a photographer that doesn't really like shooting in studios or using light setups. For me, it's just something that, because I never had the luxury or the money to buy them. I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna use the sun and any sort of light that I can get for free because everyone loves things when they're free pretty much. I decided to just, when I started shooting with film more so, I just started shooting outside a lot. I wanted to learn to use the sun and basically the natural elements to my advantage, and I feel like if you can do that effectively, I feel like you're pretty much set when it comes to photography. Also, like with lighting as well, I think for me it's just something that it enhances the photo in a way, and I like my work to feel as authentic as possible. Even when I come into the editing stage, I don't really like to change the lighting too much or the colors. I like it to kind of be like what I capture is what I capture. For me, I don't really like to change the way how the photo looks from the start. I think for me it's more of a thing where like what I capture is what I get, and I don't want to like really defer and kind of distance myself from the original photo. I think for me it's just kind of keeping the photos authentic and real and doing my best as a photographer to capture what's in the moment as the best as I can, to be honest. And shooting on film kind of keeps me disciplined in that. A lot of the time you can get like digital photography and it's just very easy to manipulate things and change things, but I think when you're kind of just stuck with your bare and you've got like a certain limited shots on in your roll of film and you can only do so much with your film camera, and I shoot on like an old USSR beat up kind of old school Soviet camera which my dad gave to me when I was 19, to just kind of be using that to this day more or less, and other kind of cameras of the similar quality is just kind of, yeah, it's a testament to that. And I think with my work it's just keeping it real, keeping it authentic, and yeah, using light as a source to kind of capture what I want. And within light there's always a story, there's always a kind of feel for it. So yeah, with the photo that you see is a photo essentially of Tyrone, the character that the main character within our film, and this was a part of the series that I did called Rage, which focuses on black masculinity and kind of answers the question of what does it mean to be vulnerable today for black men. And what you can see in the photo is Tyrone, who's standing, I believe, in Ledbury Estate, which is an estate in South London. And what I was trying to show here was more or less the idea of how sometimes isolating it can be. And a lot of the time with black men, it's very difficult to talk about our feelings because it's such kind of like a new concept to us. Now we're in like an environment where like it's like mental health is more kind of, I don't think the word is glamorized, but it's more spoken about and it's more open for us to kind of talk about our emotions. And sometimes when you're at the start of basically voicing how you actually feel, sometimes it can just feel like you're just talking to yourself. So what I wanted to show here was basically how just, yeah, more or less isolated it could be, which is why we shot underneath the lamppost. So he's in this kind of estate and it's just kind of him by himself, and what I just wanted to reflect was just how dire it can be sometimes and how alone you can actually feel, where you can find a lot of these people who are going through these emotions. Alright, cool. I think for me, one of the first things that I would do is literally like mood boards, like know what you're gonna shoot, know what you want. Depends on what type of photographer you are, but I'm someone who needs kind of constant reassurance that I know the vision that I have in my head is how I'm going to execute it and see it. So what I'll often do is kind of create a mood board, which is just a collage of images put together on like a slide or a document, or you can do it on paper as well. And I just kind of get a feel for what is it that I'm shooting, what angles am I going for, what does the model look like, what's the kind of like styling, the aesthetic that I'm kind of trying to achieve. And I'll always do that before I go out and do a shoot, just because you have that added reassurance, and it's always nice to have something to bounce off of when you're shooting. So yeah, the second tip for me is more of a thing where it's like, I can say it's a personal thing. So I always shoot what I know, you know what I mean? I shoot what I feel comfortable with. I tend to do research on what I'm shooting. So if I'm shooting, if it's like a concept that I'm creating, like for example, I spent a lot of the time when I was doing Limbo, which is you see in this image. It was basically a series that looked into the idea of what it means to more or less feel like
in between two places of wanting to achieve something and also feeling like you're just not going to achieve anything at all. And that was kind of basically what I was feeling at the time. So I always shoot kind of in accordance to how I feel and what's my truth. You know, I don't really like to kind of shoot things that feel a bit different or I have no knowledge on. And if that's the case and I have to do that, I'll always kind of educate myself and get knowledge and understand what I'm shooting before I go out and shoot it. So yeah. Third one. Yeah, don't be afraid to... I don't think there's no such thing as a bad picture. This is more of a thing of advice. Sometimes you shoot and you might not necessarily get the right lighting, or if you're shooting that with natural lighting, sometimes things can play up. But I always say play it to your advantage, you know what I mean? There's always a way to make a picture look great somehow. And if that means you have to do a little bit of editing within the picture, yeah, then go about and do it. But always kind of like learn from those kind of shots that are somewhat deemed as what you think they're not right. I always like to carry a little notebook with me and kind of just remind myself of like, okay, I've taken this picture and this is how it's turned out and what I would do differently next time, you know, or what I liked about it. So yeah, the fourth one. You know what? It's just simple. It's just shoot, shoot. Because it's very easy to get like bogged down and try and figure out what is it that you're gonna go out and shoot sometimes and whatever. And it's always good to do research on what you want to shoot. But in the art of like photography, you're not a photographer unless you shoot it. So just go out and shoot whatever it is, just have fun with it, just learn what you like kind of capturing, what environments you feel comfortable with it. Always try to kind of just learn more about yourself every week with photography or every day. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was it.
Whee!